Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of The Message. I am your host, the Knowledge King. We'll spend this next hour with one purpose in mind, and that one purpose is delivering the message that God is Almighty. Everything that ever was, is now, or ever will be, is a piece of God. Everything that ever was, is now, ever will be, was made by God. Everything that ever happened, is happening right now, ever will happen, was made to happen by God. God is the master plan for all time and all creation. God is Almighty. The message is brought to you by, is produced by the Society of Knowledge. The Society is an interdenominational ministry. Our members come from various different religious and spiritual backgrounds. We have various different religious and spiritual beliefs. Although we come from different backgrounds and have different beliefs, there is one belief that we share. There is one piece of knowledge that we hold in common, and that's the knowledge that there is a being. By no matter what name we may have been taught to call that being, by no matter what name we may have come to know that being, whether that name be God, Allah, Yahweh, Jesus, Jehovah, Buddha, by no matter what name, we know that there is indeed a being that possesses not some of the power, not most of the power, but all of the power. That's the reason we do the show, and the only reason we do the show. And that's to deliver the message that that being that I call God, that being is indeed Almighty. And what you see on the screen now, that is our acknowledgement. That's what we believe in. That's what we know. That's what we teach here at the Society of Knowledge. And today is October 26, 2023. I remind that fact because tonight, as we are on most Thursdays, we are live. Go into our discussion. Yes, we are. All right, religious spiritual study. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, coming out of the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, coming out of the book of John 8:32, and prove all things, hold fast that which is good. And we say all of that so that we can remind ourselves to check out things, learn. It's good to learn, good to gain knowledge. And when you learn, when you gain that knowledge, you become free. And when it says free, not only will you become free, physically free, but also mentally and spiritually free. And lastly, prove all things. If you hear me say something on the message, or hear one of our guests say something on the message, check it out, verify it yourself. And then after you verify it, if you do find out that it's true, hold on to it. If not, let it go. And encourage you, please. If you hear me say something on this show and it's not quite right, don't wait until later on. Let us know right now. Let us know right now, and then that way we'll be able to make a correction. All right. Let's see. All right. All right. All right. We see Brother Corey. As we get into the discussion, the Black Christian church denominations. Now, I will let you know that this topic came up because we often hear about different denominations. Particularly, we'll hear about denominations here in New Orleans area. We hear about denominations such as the Full Gospel. We'll also hear about, Koji. What is that? What is Koji? What is Full Gospel? Well, it's good for us to know what it's talking about. Thank you, Sister Deborah, for joining us on Facebook. And again, all of you are invited to join in. You have some information that you want to share, some comments about the topic. So I've done quite a bit of research on this, and I'm going to share this. And the research that I've done, I've gone through different websites, including the websites of these different organizations. So, if you have some additional information that you want to share, please do that. All right. So to get started, and let's see if we can pull this. The Black church, okay, both during and after the end of slavery, African Americans began to establish their own congregations, parishes, fellowships, associations, and later denominations. All right. The African Methodist Episcopal Church grew out of the Free African Society, which Richard Allen and Absalom Jones and others established in Philadelphia in 1787. When officials at St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church pulled blacks off their knees while praying, the Free African Society members discovered just how far American Methodists would go to enforce racial discrimination against African Americans. Hence, those members of St. George's made plans to transform their mutual aid society into an African congregation. And as you see on the screen there, those are portraits of Richard Allen and Absalom Jones. In 1974, Bethel AME was dedicated. Okay, so 1794. Now remember, slavery didn't end until 1865. So this is way before the ending of slavery. So in 1794, Bethel AME was dedicated with Allen as pastor. To establish Bethel's independence from interfering white Methodists, Allen, a former Delaware slave, successfully sued in the Pennsylvania courts in 1807 and 1815 for the right of his congregation to exist as an independent institution. And now I'm going to stop that. I'm going to stop that because I want to emphasize something, and I want to make a point. And the point that I want to make, Brother Corey, the point that I want to make is look at the dates that are said. In 1807 and 1815, this former slave, okay, this former slave successfully sued this white organization, which is the Methodists, for the right of his congregation to exist as an independent institution. Now, this is I highlight this, Brother Court, because slavery was still in effect. Okay, so this was 1807 and 1815. This former slave has the intelligence enough and the fortitude enough to go into court and battle with the white Methodist Church and win. So that right there, that gives me hope, that gives me strength in knowing that this former slave could do that while slavery is still going on. Then there should be no impediment to me right now to do whatever I need to do. So sometimes, we can look at obstacles and say that, well, the cards are stacked against us. We can look at obstacles and say that, well, we can't battle because we have this corporation that we're fighting. We have this white power structure that we're fighting. So we can't win. So we just leave it alone. Well, here we looking at this former slave who fought the battle while slavery was still in effect, and he won. So now that is encouraging to me. That's encouraging to me. So I have to stop there. I have to stop and editorialize a little while. And you know what? Look what I'm saying. I'm saying, here, Brother Corey, in the society, we say what? We say God is almighty. So if God could give Brother Allen, if God could give Brother Allen victory in the middle of slavery, then God Almighty can give all of us the victory today, no matter whatever we're going through, no matter how insurmountable the odds, God can give us the victory. All right. All right. Because Black Methodists and other, and let me pull the screen up, because Black Methodists and other denominations encountered racism and desired religious autonomy, Allen called them to meet in Philadelphia to form a new Wesleyan denomination, the African Methodist Episcopal Church. So when you hear folks talk about the AME, that's what they're talking about. This church that was actually formed during slavery and had to go to court to be able to gain its independence. The most significant era of denominational development occurred during the Civil War and Reconstruction. Oftentimes, with the permission, and what you see, that is an artist rendering during Reconstruction. And another thing, when I go back and do research, we're looking at the 1800s, the late 1700s, 1800s, when slavery is still in effect. And then we look at the period after 1865, after the end of slavery, during that period that started what they call a Reconstruction. Man, one of the things that you find out is just look at the brothers and sisters, how they're dressed. Okay, look how they're dressed. Nowadays we think about we say, well, if you get dressed up, you're not Black enough. Okay, and we have in our psyche, a lot of us have in our psyche the stereotype that a Black man and Black woman are supposed to be shabbily dressed, particularly during the slavery time. But here we see, in more research that you do, you see that no, Black folks, used to, get dressed up, in the period of Reconstruction. What that was about. Reconstruction was when they tried to take away when they took away a lot of the rights and privileges that the newly freed slaves had, as far as land ownership, holding positions, political positions, and just living. And that was taken away from them during this period, what they call Reconstruction. They wanted to reconstruct things. When the slaves were freed, they progressed so much that the folks there, some of the white folks said, well, no, we got to slow them down. They're getting too powerful. But again, this is in the arena of religion in the church that we're talking about now. All right, so the most significant era of denomination development occurred during the Civil War and Reconstruction. Oftentimes, with the permission of Union Army officials, AME clergy moved into the states of the collapsing Confederacy to pull newly freed slaves into their denomination. I Seek My Brethren, the title of an often repeated sermon that Theophilus G. Stewart preached in South Carolina, became a clarion call to evangelize fellow Blacks in Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Texas, and many other parts of the South. Hence, in 1880, AME membership reached 400,000 because of its rapid spread below the Mason-Dixon line. When Bishop Henry M. Turner pushed AME across the Atlantic into Liberia and Sierra Leone in 1891 and into South Africa in 1896, the AME now laid claim to adherence on 2 continents. Today, the African Methodist Episcopal Church has membership in 20 Episcopal districts in 39 countries on 5 continents. The work of the church is administered by 21 active bishops and 9 general officers who manage the departments of the church. Another denomination, and that other denomination is the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. It was formerly known as the CME Church. It was organized December 16, 1870 in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm sorry, in Jackson, Tennessee, by 41 former slave members of the Methodist Episcopal Church South. I'm going to read that again so that it's clear on that. By 41 former slave members of the Methodist Episcopal Church South. All right. Composed primarily of African Americans, the CME Church is a branch of Wesleyan Methodism founded and organized by John Wesley in England in 1844 and established in America as the Methodist Episcopal Church in 1784. Presently, the church reports approximately 800,000 communicant members in the continental United States and 14 African countries, including Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, and DR Congo. The CME Church came into being in the tumultuous aftermath of the Civil War and throes of Reconstruction. Beginning in 1619, the enslavement of Native Africans captured in homeland and transported to America under horrendous conditions known as Middle Passage became integral to the American way of life. By the 19th century, chattel slavery, especially on the cotton, cane, and tobacco plantations of the South, had become a peculiar institution. Despite the principles and precepts of Jesus Christ, and I'm going to read this real slow. Okay, Baba Sanyika, I'm going to read this slow so that this could sink in to some of our viewers. All right, I'm going to read it. Despite the principles and precepts of Jesus Christ, however, the Christian churches of the South not only approved and advocated slavery, look at that, approved and advocated slavery. So the Christian church approving and advocating slavery, but even accepted it in their midst. Foremost among them was the Methodist Episcopal Church South, which in 1844 has separated from the Methodist Church over the issue of slavery. When the Civil War began in 1860, it had more enslaved members than any other religious denomination. At the end of the war, amidst its devastation, almost 100,000 members remained in the Methodist Episcopal Church South. It was of these members that in 1866, the General Conference of that church asked, "What shall be done to promote the religious interests of our colored members?" The answer was predicated on the expressed desires and requests of those colored members. And there's a lot of stuff. I'm going to skip over some of this stuff, but look it up. Look it up for yourself. You can go back. I see my wife has joined us on Facebook. Good evening. And all of those that are watching by Facebook, please hit the like button, hit the share button. All right. Next we'll go to and this is some of you, particularly here in the New Orleans area, are familiar with this organization. And it's called the Church of God in Christ, or COGI. All right. COGI. And there are a number of churches in the New Orleans area that are members of COGI. Now, one of the things I did a little research as far as when we talk about these different denominations, and the AME, the COGI, the Full Gospel, all those churches, what they are they are associations. They are groups of individual churches. So you don't have to be a church that's started by Full Gospel or started by COGI. You can have your own church and apply to be a member, have your church be a member of Full Gospel or COGI or these others that we're going to talk about. And what you have to do is you can go online and go to their website, and what you'll see an application. If your church wants to become a member of Full Gospel or want to become a member of COGI, all you have to do, fill out the application. There's some money you have to pay. They'll review your application. and then they'll either admit you or not. You don't have to change the name of your church. You have to do none of that. And the reason why, you do have to pay some money. You have to do that. You have to pay some money. Now, the reason that churches join these different associations, these different denominations, and as they call them, these conventions, the reason that the churches join is, for one, for the fellowship, and then number two, their strength in numbers. So if you are fellowshipping with, if you're associated with Full Gospel or with Koji, then you have other churches that are part of your group, your association. There are certain things that you can get done. You have more power, their strength in numbers. But again, a little bit of background about Koji. Bishop Charles Harrison Mason was the founder and first senior bishop of the Church of God in Christ. Presently, the largest African-American Pentecostal church in the United States. And I see that's another difference there. Pentecostal, there's a difference between Pentecostal and Baptist. There's too much to go into tonight, but there's a difference in that. Born to former slaves, Jerry and Eliza Mason in Shelby County, Tennessee, on September 8, 1864, Mason worked with his family as a sharecropper and did not receive a formal education as a child. But at an early age, he was influenced by his parents' religion. In 1895, Mason met Charles Price Jones, a popular Baptist preacher from Mississippi. Mason and Jones soon began preaching the doctrine of holiness and sanctification in local Baptist churches, which led to their expulsion from the Baptist convention. So they were expelled from the Baptist convention because they preached the doctrine of holiness and sanctification. Mason and Jones decided to form a new fellowship of churches. Mason suggested the name Church of God in Christ after what he described as a vision in Little Rock, Arkansas. Due to disagreements in the new Pentecostal teachings, the Pentecostal church, just a little background, they believe in speaking in tongues, they believe in the healing, laying hands on, different things like that that some Baptist churches don't believe in. But due to the disagreement in the new Pentecostal teaching, the two men split their group in 1907. Mason won the legal rights to the Church of God in Christ's name and charter and established his work in Memphis. At the time of Mason's death on November 17, 1961, Koji had a membership of more than 400,000 and more than 4,000 churches in the United States, as well as congregations in Europe, South America, Africa, and Asia. Okay, so now look this up. It says a membership of more than 400,000, right? And more than 4,000 churches. So if you got 4,000 churches and 400 members, that kind of tells me that if my math is right, that each of those 4,000 churches would have roughly about 100 members. Yeah. Today, it has an estimated 6.5 million members. The church can be found in every state in the United States and in more than 87 countries around the world. So that's Koji. All right. The National Baptist Convention. The National Baptist Convention, USA, and let's see if we can get this. The National Baptist Convention, USA, traces a history of significant growth and achievements, attended sometimes by periods of turbulence, to Saturday, November 22nd, 1880, when 151 persons from 11 states met in Montgomery, Alabama, and organized the Baptist Foreign Mission Convention. 6 years later, in 1886, 600 delegates from 17 states gathered at the First Baptist Church in St. Louis, Missouri, and formed the National Baptist Convention of America. 7 years later, in 1893, the National Baptist Education Convention was formed. None of the three conventions thrived separately. So in 1895, the three bodies effected a merger in a meeting held at the Friendship Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. See, a lot of this stuff looked like happening in the South, right? Hey, Dr. Morris led for 48 years until 1922. During those years, a publishing board was established. At the direction of the convention, the task was assigned to a publishing committee under the oversight of the convention's home mission board, led by the Reverend R.H. Boyd. Contentions developed around the issue of the independence of the publishing board. The convention maintained that the board was accountable to the convention. The board took an opposite posture. The disagreement led to a division in 1915. The publishing board and the supporters organized the National Baptist Convention of America, unincorporated. The convention incorporated as the National Baptist Convention, USA, Incorporated. Differing concepts about engagement in the civil rights struggle and differing postures on term limitations for the president led to a division in the convention and resulted in the formation of the Progressive National Baptist Convention. Okay, so now we have another organization, okay, the Progressive National Baptist Convention. All right, now we just read about the National Baptist Convention, and now it has a similar name, and this is the National Baptist Convention of America, Inc., and it's a little bit confusing. But historian L.B. Jordan records that in 1880, there were nearly 2 million former slaves in Baptist churches, which created a need for a national aggregation of African American Baptists. On Wednesday, November 24, 1880, 151 messengers representing 11 states throughout the United States, right? And that's, all right, same thing that we were reading just a minute ago. So we're going to skip over that, but I want to show you, which is the logo you see on the screen now. That's National Baptist Convention Incorporated, USA Incorporated. And then we have the National Baptist Convention of America Incorporated. So here, this is a couple of different organizations, this very, very, very similar names, but they're actually two distinct organizations. Now, this third organization, and I didn't have a chance to put this third organization up on the screen, but this third organization, it is the Progressive National Baptist Convention. Okay? And in response to a letter sent out by the Reverend L. Venture Booth, 33 delegates from 14 states met on November 14 and 15, 1961, at his church, the Zion Baptist Church in Cincinnati, Ohio. Reverend Henderson, pastor of Second Baptist Church in Los Angeles, California, presided over the meeting. As a result of this two-day intensive organizational meeting, the Progressive National Baptist Convention, Inc. was formed. So here we got a third organization. As a result of the 1961 founding meeting in Cincinnati, Ohio, Reverend Chambers was elected as its first president. Leadership from across the United States joined the Progressive Baptist family and spawned the Progressive National Baptist movement. Issues of freedom, civil and human rights, and progressive ideas became the cornerstone for the convention. The Progressive National Baptist Convention became a new Christian movement, which included an array of social and political concerns embodied in its founding principles of fellowship, progress, service, and peace. The Progressive National Baptist Convention movement supported Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s struggle for freedom for African Americans. It was the Progressive Convention that provided a denominational home for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and many of the Baptist leaders in the civil rights movement. They all became important forces in the life and work of the Progressive National Baptist Convention, Inc. Right. So that's a little bit the history about these denominations, and there is a little bit more info that I'm going to share in the remaining 20 minutes or so. And this is one that's real close, Sister Deborah, that's close to the folks here in the city of New Orleans, and that is the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship. Okay, the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship. Brother Court, the Full Gospel was reported to have over 10,000 active members in 1993 and 20,000 in 1995. In 1997, they claimed 1 million members and 5,000 churches throughout the United States. As of 2020, they reported having approximately 2 million members. In 2023, the Full Gospel Baptist had approximately 10,000 churches. Yeah, so that's Full Gospel. And churches aligned with Full Gospel Baptists may affiliate with other Christian denominations and are not required to change their names. Headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship is led by Bishop Joseph W. Walker III of Nashville, Tennessee, as the presiding bishop, who was appointed to succeed Bishop Paul Martin upon his retirement. The Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship was established by Bishop Paul S. Martin Sr. in 1994 within New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay, so 1994, the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship was established. And for those of you that live in the New Orleans area, you may remember that before they had the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship, they had a church that was called Greater St. Stephen's. And that's where Bishop Martin really started his movement. And that was located uptown around 2nd and South Liberty. My in-law, mother-in-law, father had a little grocery store around the corner from the church. And as they grew, as the church grew, they moved out to a larger church in New Orleans East area. But again, at the time, they were about the largest church in the New Orleans area. Just about the largest church in the New Orleans area. And that Full Gospel actually was Greater St. Stephen's. And then they developed into this community of churches, this association of churches that joined in with Greater St. Stephen's to form the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship. All right. Exploring the gifts of the Holy Spirit against traditionally secessionist Baptist pastors and laymen within the National Baptist Convention and the Progressive National Baptist Convention, alongside establishing an Episcopal Baptist governors, Martin and those affiliated with the fellowship were lovingly advised to resign their posts within the National Black Convention USA, the National Baptist Convention in USA, before they were kicked out. So, the Greater St. Stephen's, Bishop Martin, they were a part of the National Baptist Convention, but their ideology, their teachings started shifting away. So they were gradually moved out. They were lovingly advised to resign. The National Baptist leadership feared the movement would develop into a separate denomination, urging members to either remain within the convention or leave. The Baptist Convention's then president, Reverend Henry J. Lyons, disapproved of the movement's belief in tongues and divine healing. Okay, so again, some more of that Pentecostal teaching. Bishop Martin left the National Baptist Convention USA following the controversies among traditional Black Baptists. Full Gospel Baptists ordain and consecrate a significant number of female pastors and bishops as well. Although the majority of the clergy is still male, Its women clergy operate in an organization called the Daughters of the Promise, or Full Gospel International Women's Fellowship. Within the full, now this, I'm gonna slow down and read something here, because this is really something that surprised me when I read this. I didn't know it. It surprised me. Within the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship is bishops claim apostolic succession through Bishop Martin's consecrated. And apostolic succession means that they trace their position of authority. So he said Bishop Martin, say he's Bishop Martin, he traces that authority all the way back to the apostles. All right, the apostles. Okay. All the way back to the apostle, and the most significant first apostle being Apostle Peter. So now guess what other church does that? What other? The other church that does that is the Catholic Church. Okay, the Catholic Church has that structure, and the Catholic Church traces its bishops, its pope, all the way back to Christ's apostle. Okay, now this is the little piece. This is, in all the other Baptist churches, they don't do that. They don't say that they are in that line of succession all the way back to the apostles. They don't say that. Okay, but this, I see we have Baba Senyika joined us. Baba Senyika, this was some news to me, Baba Senyika, when I learned about that. And one of the things here that I'm reading, this last little piece, it says, within the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship, its bishops claim apostolic succession through Bishop Martin's consecrator. And who was that? He was the excommunicated Roman Catholic George Augustus Stallings. Okay, the excommunicated Roman Catholic priest George Augustus
Stallings.
And he was Stallings was relieved of religious duties in the Roman Catholic Church. The concept of valid but illicit ordinations guarantees Stallings episcopacy remaining valid to whoever recognized it as such. And there's some other things I'm going to read, but I'm going to really skip over this, and I'm going to skip over this quickly because I do want to give Baba Senyika an opportunity to share with us, and also Brother Corey an opportunity to share with us. So we've been reading, when we've been talking about the Black church denominations, it's been primarily Baptist, Protestant denominations that we've been talking about. But there is also, and I'm going to read through this real briefly, the African American Catholic after the Civil Rights Movement, various new Black Catholic organizations were founded for Black priests, sisters, deacons, and seminarians, and the National Black Catholic Congress arrived in 1987. African American Catholic priests greatly increased in number, and African American bishops began being appointed, including archbishops. Now, I just read about this name of George Augustus Stallings, and he went on. He was excommunicated by the Catholic Church, but he went on to found the African American Catholic Congregation, the AACC, and its Imani temples, and that's a part of the independent Catholic Church founded by Patriarch Archbishop Augustus Stallings, George Augustus Stallings Jr., an Afrocentrist and former Roman Catholic priest who founded the Imani Temple. And it started out as a single congregation in Washington, D.C. in 1989. Now, those of you that are familiar with me, that are familiar with the Society of Knowledge, you all know that there's a relationship between the society and the AACC, the Imani temples. And actually, we were housed, the society was housed at Imani Temple number 28 here in the city of New Orleans on Treasure Street for quite a while. And we just moved a few months ago. So as far as his title used to be Archbishop Starling, but he is semi-retired. He's got the title now, Patriarch. But we've had an opportunity to have discussions. He has been on the show. We've had video on, and we've been out there to the Imani Temple number 49 out in Lafayette, where the Archbishop has been out there, and we've had a chance to fellowship with him out there. So he's a friend. So Imani Temple and the AACC, they are indeed friends of the Society of Knowledge. And one last piece, and we're gonna open things up for the last 10 minutes of the show. The oldest Black Catholic Church, is located right here in the city of New Orleans, and that's St. Augustine Catholic Church. And it was founded by free Blacks in 1841. Free Blacks. So slavery was still in effect when St. Augustine Church was founded. And those of you that have not had a chance to visit St. Augustine Church, I encourage you to do that. It's on Governor Nichols, right off of St. Claude Avenue. So if you're here in the city of New Orleans, that's a piece of history. Okay, founded, and I've been to St. Augustine Church, a number of times, and it's something to walk in that structure and realize that it was constructed during slavery. It was constructed during slavery, but again, it was founded by free Blacks. So yes, during slavery time, all Black folks weren't slaves, and all Black folks weren't illiterate. All Black folks were not shiftless and lazy, even during slavery. Yeah, so that's some encouragement. So that's enough editorializing. Baba Senika, you have the floor. Why don't you grace us with some words of wisdom? And it's good having you, brother.
Well, first of all, good evening to each and every one of you there, and especially good evening to my good friend and colleague, Brother Donatus. It's good to be here. I promised you that I would, and sure enough, the opportunity became available, and I said, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it this evening. I just finished a consultation that just happened between a series of Black Christian theologians and clergy and others would call Black non-believers and agnostics. A very fascinating conversation and dialogue that I wish you could have yourself heard, and many other people. It was just really an intriguing conversation. That's an arena of practice that I have been looking at for a very long period of time, since I regard some of my own theological thinking as African-American spiritual humanism, rather than being affiliated with a specific denomination, quote unquote, as such, because I think the transcendent, whatever the transcendent is, it transcends those structures and those offices that have been endowed with all that power to govern religious and faith-based institutions. And that's important for people to understand, because you cannot separate the faith-based institutions anywhere in the world from the structure of governance and power politics. They go together. They've always been together. And when you look at the history, especially of Western civilization, you see this connection between church and state, because oftentimes the ruler of the state was also the ruler of the church, i.e., that is why the office of the Pope is that of an international politician. And they are not just the papacy, but they are an empire, so to speak. And Most countries in the world send ambassadors to Rome, to the Vatican. Why do they do that? Because the Catholic Church is a global institution that exerts enormous power over the affairs of the world, because in the evolution of Western civilization, that was part of the role that was played by the church. But at any rate, in today's times that we're living in, roughly 25% of the people in this country today consider themselves to be non-believers. And part of why they are non-believers is they don't believe the narrative that is coming out of churches today. That's what they're not believing. It's either they're not believing in that concept of the divine, or they're not believing in the leader, or they're not believing in the forms of worship, or they're not believing in the people, they're not believing in the structure. I mean, when we look at the institution that we call the church today, it is so far divorced from the spirituality that it was supposed to have been about that you almost can't recognize it as a spiritual institution anymore. It is so engaged with so many sidebars and so many other kinds of things that occupy its attention that you have to struggle through all of that confusion to really get at the spiritual question that's supposed to be on the table, about loving creation and loving humanity, doing right, doing justice in life. All those things that it's supposed to be about, it's hard to find them. It's not easy anymore. So a lot of people have drifted away. And when you talk to them and ask them about why, you get a whole range of different reasons about why. But this question of the authority of who and what governs the institution that we call the church is very much at the center of people's dissatisfaction and their alienation and how they have drifted away. Now, I'm not condemning all spiritual leaders. That's not what I'm suggesting, because they are good spiritual leaders and they're not good spiritual leaders, as in anything else. But this structure of the church was given a special kind of authority. And I was fascinated hearing you describe, the apostolic tradition. How you gonna trace how you trace yourself all the way back to Peter? I don't get that. I don't know how you do that, except you just pronounce it. And it is because you pronounce that it is.
And so be it, right? So be it.
Yeah, right. And so be it, exactly. But I want to know who you are and what you do, because I could give you a list of some things some clergy people have done, and you would say to me, Brother Sanika, no, he didn't really do that, did he? And I would say to you, you don't know that he did it, but I have information that I can tell you that he did or she did. And we have this other problem with women. The church is alienated. A lot of churches have alienated women because they won't allow women to be in certain kind of decision-making roles, or they won't let them be spiritual leaders. They won't let them be pastors or spiritual leaders. It's all male-dominated. It's a patriarchal system. Right. Just like,
One, and I apologize for interrupting you, brother, but I do want to, and this is one of the constrictions that we have with the time constrictions with the show, because we do gonna have to edit it so that this show will be aired on TV. But I'm thinking that all of our viewers, if you don't recognize the voice, Baba Sanika, Dr. Sanika, is a regular contributor to our local radio station, that's WBOK here in the city of New Orleans. And I'm going to give you, Baba, 30 seconds. We're first going to bring Brother Corey on, and then we'll close out in about 30 seconds just to share a little bit with our viewers about the ALP. But before we do that, Baba, Brother Corey, you have some closing remarks for Brother Corey?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're dealing with the Circle Church on Chancery. I don't know if you ever heard of Circle Church on Chancery. Right. We have to know where the power lies. Some people say it's the Pope. Some people say it's the Black Pope. Some people say it's the Gray Pope. All three segments of their organization. So a lot of stuff I could talk about, but that's the organization, and we participated in that organization. We came here, you know, under the stress and under the war, POWs, you want to call it, and we went with the Catholic Church. Because again, remember always the doctrine of discovery, always that, okay? So we have to know that's power right there. So came here to work with the church. So I always try to hold them accountable for all their promises that they're supposed to give the people that came and worked and went on their side with them. So that's all I have to say about that. So let's all get together and know exactly where the powers lie so we all can be beneficial to everyone.
All right, thank you, Brother Corey. And as promised, and thank you, Sister Deborah. The address of St. Augustine Catholic Church here in New Orleans is 1210 Governor Nichols Street here in the city of New Orleans, 1210 Governor Nichols. Baba Senika.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you give us, you know, briefly a little bit about what's happening with AALP? And I'm proud to say that I've been involved with AALP since before Katrina. So it's great.
From the beginning.
AALP is still going strong. So I'll just share with us some of the initiatives of the African American Leadership Project.
Well, thank you very much for giving me that opportunity. And let me just say hello to Brother Corey. I frequently hear you on WBOK as well, and it's a pleasure to actually see your face. I've never met you in person, and one day I hope to do that. So hello, my brother.
Salute, sir, salute.
Wait.
Yes, sir. The African American Leadership Project was a group that was founded right prior to Katrina, 2002, 2003, when Baba Morris FX Jeff was still with us. And we were founded to look at 25 years of Black political leadership. It was 25 years since Dutch Moriel had been elected, and we were trying to ask, what is it that we need to focus on? What do we need to think about? What do we need to be doing? And the conclusion was we needed to determine what was in our interest as a people and as a community at that time. So we began to develop an agenda building process that was going to bring the whole community together to actually adopt an agenda of interests and issues and problems and challenges that represented a broad cross-section of the community. We had taken a couple of years to do that, and then Katrina interrupted the process, so we never got back to that. Then after Katrina, we had focused on bringing Black people back and the right to return, and we did something called the Citizens Bill of Rights to advocate and for everybody in the city of New Orleans to be able to come back, and that we would have an affordable city, because the other people wanted to turn the lower Ninth Ward into swampland or to gambling houses and to all sorts of other things. And we argued that the land belonged to the people, and that's how it should be. Well, at the end of that process, we won a few things, but did not win them all. They tried to change the name of the convention center while we were gone. They tried to get rid of the requirement for police residency. They got rid of all the housing projects. We fought that vehemently. And now they've gentrified the city. So here we are. What we've come to do after 20 years is to rebuild the organization to make it ready, to help it to be ready for dealing with the challenges of today. We still have the problem with the schools, with this messed up charter system that's really not helping a lot of our kids. We still have problems with crime and our young people. We still have problems with economic development and the wealth gap. We still have problems with infrastructure, and we still have problems in a lot of different areas in our community. And what we're doing now is developing our strategic plan to begin to address a wide range of problems that we have in the community. We will be having some listening sessions in the immediate future. And we will be sharing that and inviting the community to come and share with us what it wants to say and what it wants to prioritize, and how we go about actually implementing what is in the interest of our community, empowering ourselves and our people, maintaining the community for those who are its residents, maintaining the culture of this city, and making sure that the culture bearers are among the beneficiaries. Those are things that are self-obvious to us, but those aren't the things we do. Finally, when it comes to politics, we contend that politicians shouldn't just decide they're going to run. The people should decide. And the people should develop the agenda that they must run on, so that when they do get in office, there's something to hold them accountable. And if they don't perform, then we do what you do next, which is to replace them. There's some evidence that there might be a proposed revision of the charter of the city of New Orleans, and we need to watch out for that and just keep our eyes open about community affairs. So we're redoing it. Our new president is Reverend Dr. Torrance Sanders, who used to be on the school board. I think all of you know him, and who's also a dean at SUNO out there at the Millie Charles Center. And we're looking forward and excited about where his leadership is going to help us to go. And we will be reaching out to all of you to ask your help and your participation in the process as well. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share. And I will have something more specific that I'd like to come back and share when we finish out the work plan. But that's the direction we're heading in. What's in the best interest of our community? How do we maintain community development, community control? How do we stop resources from flowing out? How do we strengthen Black businesses? How do we reduce the wealth gap? How do we reduce the crime? How do we put together youth councils to engage our young people? How do we improve the schools? Lots and lots of things. As you can see, we need everything. So we will be trying to put together a plan for us to address those issues.
All right, Baba, so thank you for that input. And with your permission, I'll be disseminating, sharing the information about the ELP to our viewers and to our members. We have gone over, so we're going to have to do some editing to make this fit into the time slot that we get from the TV station, but so be it. I just want to thank Brother Corey, Baba Sanyika, all of our viewers by Facebook, and all of you that are going to watch this later on when it's posted on Facebook, and remind you that it'll be on our YouTube channel, and that's DMK Messenger. Don't worry about writing that down. Go to our main website, and that's www.godesalmighty.org, and there's a link that you can click on, and it'll take you to our YouTube channel. So all of you, one thing about it, one thing that we do know, that no matter what name we might call that being by, there is an almighty being. And it's my prayer that in this upcoming week, may that almighty being, before I close out, and Brother Corey, thank you for reminding me, I invite you to come on down, fellowship with us this Sunday at 10 o'clock. All right, 1861 Abundant Street here in the city of New Orleans. It sounds like I heard Sister Donna in the background there. Good night, Sister Donna. Good night, Brother Corey. Good night.
Good night.
Good night to all of those that
Good night.
May God Almighty bless you.
Okay, good night here.
Peace.